Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Elyachar, the chief content producer and writer of jakestake.com, a pop culture entertainment news website. Now, if you're listening to this podcast, please give us a 5-star rating and also please subscribe. If you're watching us on my YouTube channel, please give us a subscribe, thumbs up, subscribe, and leave a comment here. Today's a very great episode. I'm happy to introduce a guest on my right. He is a singer-songwriter, and he has one incredible story to tell. So please help me welcome Sidney Riley.
Thank you so much for having me, Jacob. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Thank you so much for taking time in your schedule to speak with us today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me. This is great. I'm excited.
No problem. So let's get started. So when did you get interested in performing, and how did that passion evolve into desire to pursue a career in the recording industry?
Sure. I got first introduced to I guess, singing myself when I was 10. Prior to that, I think once I heard Boyz II Men, I was like, that was the first kind of act I was just like kind of blown away by. And then after, when I was 10, when I first kind of got into music and I first saw the reaction to singing and to performing and kind of got over that hump of just being nervous, I was I was into it. I was like, oh, this is not as, crazy, scary or as I thought it was going to be or what have you. So after that, it was just kind of like green light go since then.
Awesome. So you began your career when you joined the British television show Children's Choice. Mm-hmm. And so what were some of the lessons that helped you learn to help you grow as a performer, and how did you get on that show?
So I'll tell you. So I got on that. You mind if I answer in like reverse? I'll tell you how I got on there. Okay, great. Yeah, I got on there by random chance. My family and we lived in Saudi Arabia for a year, and when I was 10, and then as soon as we got there, we moved there from Maryland, and as soon as we got there, we were living in a little cul-de-sac, and one of the neighbors we had just met was attending what was called the British school, and that neighbor went to school the next day and told one of his teachers about how these two kids from America just got here, and that teacher happened to be the program director for that children's television show. And then she was like, "Oh, American kids, I'd love to meet them." And literally, that's how it happened. We got invited to go down to this studio to do a show, and it was like 2 seconds. We didn't. I mean, I'd like to say we auditioned, but like we had it like as soon as my sister and I were there. And it was just such an oddly random occurrence that happened. But it, ever since then, we just were. We worked there for the year that we were in Saudi Arabia, doing all kinds of songs and skits and all kinds of fun stuff. So that's how I randomly fell into it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible, because the thing is, I never imagined going from Maryland to Saudi Arabia. That is the ultimate culture shock. And not to mention getting onto British television, being seen by people in the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was a culture shock, to say the least. And we weren't, the good thing was that we immediately, as soon as we got there, this kind of thing happened. So we were so like busy right away. And, we met a bunch of great kids, got to be on television, and, it was fun. It was a great year that we were there as kids.
Awesome. So I got to tell you something, because you are the second person that I've had on my podcast that's been associated with the Kennedy Center Honors, one of my all-time favorite shows. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Tabitha Farr, who was on was on last year, one incredible guest. She was actually one of the backup singers for many honors. But however, you were a key part. You were part of the choir. You were part of the choir for the first Kennedy Center honor I ever watched for my family, which was one of my all-time favorite ones, which was Quincy Jones' tribute, because that was with Patti Austin, Stevie Wonder. Oprah was was doing a tribute.
That's correct. Yeah.
And then the late James Ingram, and then of course the genius himself, the one and only, the late and great and well-missed Ray Charles. Yeah. Or what did it mean to be on stage with Stevie Wonder, with Patti Austin, and with Ray Charles and James Ingram as part of that choir?
Sure. Yeah. It's one of those things you put, you have this like vision or this idea of people and these extraordinary talents, and when you get to be there and you get to kind of put a face to the name and have a human connection, have a human moment, it also kind of humanizes everything. Right. So like a lot of times I mean, I'm guilty of this too. I'm sure a lot of people do this where they'll build stuff up in your head. It's like it's way more than it is. But then once you kind of have a moment to kind of sit and process and digest it, and you realize that they're just people like you, uh, the profound experience I had from that made me realize that I can do this. I can, and I was the most confident thing ever after that.
I agree because that was just like not a lot of people can say, raise your hand and say, wait a minute, I've sung with Stevie Wonder. Not, I've sung with I have accompanied Ray Charles. Something that isn't, from our generation, I believe, that's very rare.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And the cool thing was, is that, I sang alongside with the Eastern High School choir down in DC. Shout out to Eastern High School. And every singer that was there was like the best singer you've ever heard in your life. Like everybody was fantastic. So it was just so nice to be, surrounding yourself also with these like incredible talents all over the place.
It's just amazing. But however, like as I mentioned earlier, you have an incredible story to tell. So your life turned upside down when you contracted meningoencephalitis, which put you in a coma for several months.
Mm-hmm.
When you woke up from that coma, you had to relearn how to walk, and eventually you were able to surprise everyone when you walked unassisted across the graduation stage of your high school to receive that diploma.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I've read about you was you were able to use music to overcome this massive obstacle. So how did how did music help you reclaim your life?
It's funny. Before I got sick, I was thinking in my head, I was really focused on like being a soccer player, and I was really sports minded in general, and I was really kind of going that route. And after I got sick, and I woke up from my coma and I kind of came to, and once I was able to like, process again and get a little more, and I guess back to normal, I didn't care about sports anymore. It wasn't something switched in my head before and after that moment. And I didn't feel bad about it. I wasn't upset about it. I didn't have any, negative or, upsetting thoughts about it. I was thinking and my mind was going one direction beforehand. And then afterward, it was just focused on another. And I got to sing like the song with my choir at graduation. And it was a Whitney Houston One Moment in Time. Wrote the lyrics to kind of customize it to our high school and a high school's experience. And I mean, even being able to kind of have that opportunity and to write to it and to sing it, it kind of like lit a little fire in me to like push harder, while I was in rehab, and to really kind of give the extra effort when needed so that I could be as prepared and as ready as possible for that.
That's
So on a short term,
incredible.
that's how it kind of happened. Yeah.
I gotta say that's incredible because from waking up from your coma and then also getting your voice back, did it take you and getting your
Mhm.
vocals back? How long did it take you to get that back to your voice where it was like ready to like say I can sing really really well?
Um, Maybe 6 months, to be honest. I had a tracheotomy, so I still had the like the I don't even know what the term is, but the little metal piece that kind of sticks out of your throat that they can access that way. So even after that, and they closed it up, I still had a couple surgeries to like fix it and close it a bit because it just looked like a giant cigar was like put out in my throat. So, I mean, even the things you don't think about, neck muscles and how even with singing, and there's breathing is important, and core strength is important, and flexibility is important, and I had none of those things because I had barely even got started to feel what it was like to breathe on my own again, and I barely had enough energy to even hold myself up in a seat. Um, so it was one of those things where it was just like I really do like credit the people around me, that like my mother and like my great high school, and that helped prayed for me every day kind of thing, that helped push me a little more. It was always like little, a game of inches, right? So like it was little extra things that kind of led me to be prepared for that moment. And I think, part of, yeah, sorry, I'm like kind of going down that answer. I don't like kind of thinking about it. I was like kind of going down this one, whatever rabbit hole. I don't want to like keep going down something if it's not relevant. But does that make sense?
It does make sense. It
Okay,
does
good.
make sense.
All right, good.
Because here's the thing, you go from going from, okay, I got my voice back, I can sing again.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, you graduated high school. Then you say, okay, I'm going to go into the music industry. And it goes from entering from one school, from one thing to the
Mm-hmm.
biggest world, because the music industry is tough to get in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also the biggest challenge to succeed. So what were some of the challenges that you faced breaking into the recording industry, and how did you overcome those obstacles?
There's one of my like favorite children's books growing up was There's Two Ways to Count to 10, which I don't know if you've heard this book or you remember it, whichever, but I'll give you a quick like snapshot about it, and it relates and I'll explain. But like basically all these animals are trying to throw the stick up in the air and count to 10, and if they can get to 10 before catching it, then they can be king of the jungle. And after all these animals try to do it, and a lion gets to 9 but doesn't do it, like an antelope comes up and throws a stick up and goes 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, catches it, and then the antelope gets to be king, right? So like I say that from the sense of after I got sick and recovered, and I started living in this kind of constant state of gratitude. I also it also helped me gain perspective about how to go about things. And there's 2 ways and different manner in which you can kind of get to the same end result. Because of that, and thinking, kind of keeping an eye out for different ways to kind of get to the same kind of end result, I started getting into initially MTVU to be a VJ there. Like I had done a bunch of submissions and hosted stuff around campus and done all these things. And I ended up getting a job with MTVU hosting this one show called The Freshman, which is like the freshman of music. And then the other show was called The Dean's List, which was its own like top 10 countdown. I got to host around college, and I like walked around campus and all that. And that helped me get my foot in the door from the sense of meeting other people, like other like-minded music people, and even at that level. And then it helped me kind of get to meet more people and just kind of being nice, being friendly, going above and beyond as often as possible, and just kind of keeping that message over and over and over and over again, kind of helped get me to that point. But that's how I kind of initially kind of broke in once I got to New York.
That's pretty cool, because MTV, in all honesty, like I cannot believe how it has devolved, and like where you get ridiculousness for literally 24/7,
Mm-hmm.
and you only get like the challenge or Teen Mom or something like that. Then there's no TRL. There was TRL, but they tried it didn't work. But like the thing is, it's missing its core value.
Yeah, I think, they started in the 80s, right? So like at the same time, they are growing, everything evolves to some extent, right? There's so many different channels, so many different versions. The thing I always loved about MTV was it was mostly music videos, right? Indie acts and countdown shows. So I was like, this is great. Yeah, I love this. So anybody that kind of grew up in the early 2000s like that was kind of on that same wavelength. But once it kind of got in on that front, it was like I was watching it so much, and I saw that they were saying, do you want to host this? Do you want to try this? Send us a video. So I connected with a guy that was over at the radio station at the college, and I basically told him, what do I have to do to get you to help me out, film stuff, and just do my own countdown stuff around. So he was a great guy. We became friends, and I just started trying to do that and submitting as much as I could until I got it.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So I want to talk to you about your song. It's always been you. So I love the song. And when as I was listening to it, there are elements of Michael Bublé's "I Just Haven't Met You Yet," and then also Billy Joel's "Longest Time." So can you please
great.
That's the stories behind the song? Because I hear that doo-wop background of it, and I'm like, okay, that's like "Longest Time" that went into my head.
Mm-hmm. Totally. That's awesome. Yeah, I appreciate the comparison. That's great. No, thank you. Initially the song was, I kind of just a demo idea based on, listening to Unchained Melody by the Righteous Brothers, that specific version over and over again with my now wife. And once I had done this demo, I'd shared it with her, and she was like, "This is like my favorite thing that you've done, and I love it." And I kind of initially took some influences from like Elvis, like I Can't Help Falling in Love with You, like the Righteous Brothers, and some of these other kind of classic, uh, like you were kind of alluding to, like the doo-wop type of vibes and influences, and just took that and worked in to kind of build it to some point. But then after she was so into it, I was like, I'm gonna surprise her with the song at our wedding and just do a fully produced version. And she had no clue, And so after I had done it, and I had was fortunate enough to co-write it with a good friend of mine named Andrew Scott Drewski, and produce it with a good friend of mine named Rob Harkness, who's a fantastic producer. And we were able to do all this in secret, and she had no idea. And then I was able to surprise her and the 20 people we had at our COVID friendly wedding. It blew her away, and it was great. It's one of those moments that I'll always kind of cherish.
And I think it's definitely a little bit better than the groom or bride trying to move dance moves or something like that and trying to go viral on TikTok. I think that like having a song like that, it's a much better gift. Personal
Yeah, no,
opinions.
she'd agree with you. Yeah, so thank you, man. Yeah.
You're so welcome. All right, so let's talk about, have you thought about your dream collaborators, the musicians, the singers, the songwriters, the producers that would help elevate your sound?
It's I look so there are certain things I can do on myself, but from the sense of influence and who the best kind of collaborator would be, I try to look for energy and perspective first, and then kind of go from there. I think as far as like musical artists or producers are concerned, I would love to. I think somebody like a Will.I.am, Stevie Wonder, obviously, of course, would really kind of elevate anything that I'm kind of working on. It would be like a dream to be able to work with them. Um, Non-music wise, I would love to just like have an hour or two in the studio just with somebody like an Elon Musk or a Maya Angelou, for example, that have their own life perspective and their own type of a unique thought process of how to approach things that I can kind of try to absorb from some of that and use that in there. Because a lot of my, the way I artistically express myself is through music. So being able to pull from somebody else that I can have a lot to learn from in a different aspect, and then use that and incorporate that moving forward into the music. I think I value as much as I would being able to work with somebody as talented as Stevie or as Will.I.am, for example.
Awesome. So, a lot of artists are on social media. What are your thoughts about incorporating social media to help enhance your brand? And do you have a
Uh,
favorite platform?
Sure. I favorite platform is probably Instagram. I feel like I live on Instagram. But the good thing about it is, I've been able to get in touch with people overseas, internationally, that I would really have never gotten a chance to otherwise. For the most part, I use social media for really music, and that's it. I don't really go on there for anything else. So the good thing about that is it kind of allows me to put the phone down too, and put the computer down a bit, and sometimes just go out and get some new experiences to kind of get some new motivation to then come back and make some music with. But the fact that the fact that I was able to kind of really connect and share something that people can connect with, I think is my favorite part, especially internationally.
Absolutely. You can. It's not like when like the internet has for good and for bad helped out society. The
Hmm.
biggest good is like connecting with people.
Totally, 100%.
Like for example, I'm coming from from Overland Park, Kansas, and
Hmm.
you're coming from New York, probably.
Hmm. Yeah,
It's very interesting to see how this has worked to you, that technology has helped bridge our gap.
yeah, it's great. It is that there's a lot of good ways in that it can facilitate communication, and get people kind of connected in different levels and in different ways. And yeah, it is exciting. And a lot of my music, I try to kind of give some perspective and kind of shine a light on the different ways that we can connect with each other in a meaningful way and or an impactful way.
Awesome. So speaking of music, are you ready for the last question?
Sorry, I was thirsty. Absolutely, yes.
Where can my audience connect with you? And also, where can I find your music, Sidney?
Sure. So connect with me on Instagram at I am Sidney Riley. It's IAMSIDNEYRILEY, all one word. Uh, at I am Sidney Riley is also my Twitter handle. If you like Twitter, I got a lot of bad dad jokes I can on there that that you'll either enjoy or hate. And if you check me out on Facebook, I have a Facebook group. I am Sidney Riley as well. And if you want to just check me out online, where I have all my content on my website, which is iamsidneyriley.com. And as far as where to go to check my music out, I'm on Spotify, I'm on iTunes, Apple Music, Amazon. If you want to ask Alexa, say Alexa, play some Sidney Riley, and she'll she'll do the rest. And but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. So, and if you're on Instagram, please visit me, Twitter, whatever it is, send me a message, say hi. I'd love follow me. I'll follow you back. I'm all about connecting. I'm all about collaborating and growing together.
Same with me. I love following. And speaking of following, if you miss an episode of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar podcast, visit our channels on Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Spotify, and Spreaker. JAKES Take with Jacob Elyachar, JACOBELYACHAR. Now, are you on social media? I'm on social media too. Please visit Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Jacob Elyachar, JACOBELYACHAR. And Sydney, this August, it's Jake-Take.com's 11th year on the World Wide Web.
Wow, look at you. Congratulations. It's exciting.
Thank you so much, Sydney. I appreciate it. So if you guys want to see some articles, some interviews with alumni from America's Got Talent, The Challenge, or some music reviews, head to Jake-Take.com to check it out. Sydney, thank you so much for this incredible conversation. I really appreciate taking time out of your schedule and sharing your story with us.
Oh, thank you, Jacob. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate, the questions about the new song, and I really appreciate you kind of taking time out of your schedule to speak with me as well.
You're so welcome, and guys, thank you so much for listening, for watching. Until next time, have a great one, everybody. Goodbye.